Welcome back to our flat illustration project. Here's where we left off, and our plan is to wrap up this windmill and move to the rest of the design. Grab the rectangle tool and click on the canvas. My measurements are 77 by 18 pixels. Change its colour to EB9E28. Now paste the same stroke effect if you still have it active. If not, grab it from the hill layer yet again. Good stuff. Now we'll create a new rectangle for this blade. This should be 7 by 22 pixels and you'll have to sample your stroke colour. If not, input 42394A manually. It's the same purple that we've used so far. This should be placed 7 pixels from the left side. Now we'll make several copies and in between them we'll leave 7 empty pixels. This will create a very lovely effect for our windmill blade. If you're having issues with it, use the Distribute Horizontal Centers command from the Options bar after we've selected them all. Here I'm good to go. One last thing before we finish it up, we need something that connects the blade to the rotator. So grab the rectangle tool and place a new shape that's 20 by 5 pixels. Center it vertically with your yellow rectangle. This needs to be aligned with our rotator as well. Create a group as this is sure to help you out. Everything should follow a nice fluid line. Once everything is set, we'll duplicate this entire folder and we'll flip it horizontally. This will create a mirror effect and it will help speed things along. Grab them both and create a duplicate for them as well. Use Ctrl-T and rotate them in such a way where they stand upright. Fantastic! One last step for these propellers. Select all 4 folders and we'll rotate them 45 degrees. This will seem more natural. You'll notice our blades are a bit long, but once they're in position, that's not going to be a problem. The next step is going to be optional. It will add a bit of detail, but I'll use a layer style due to time constraints. Here's the process. Grab the ellipse tool and from the center of this rotator, click and drag outwards whilst holding Alt and Shift. This will create a perfect circle that has its origin point here. Size-wise, about 250 pixels or so should do just fine. Drop the fill to 0% and next we'll add a stroke. We won't use the purple one, instead I'll go with pure white that's set to inside. This should be placed behind the windmill, so make any necessary adjustments in the Layers panel. Now this doesn't look all that great, but here's what's next. Right-click it in the Layers panel and choose Rasterize Layer Style. This will make the stroke part of the layer. Now I'll add a mask and grab my brush tool. Right-click and change the hardness to 100% if it's not already set. Now, with black as my foreground colour, I'll start to remove some of this white stroke in the propeller region. Remember that if you mess up, you can always hit X and paint those details back in. You don't have to be too precise about it. What's important is you try to maintain somewhat the same empty space between all 4. Once this is done, duplicate it with Ctrl-J. Now with Ctrl-T, shrink it to about 210 pixels or so and rotate it to 45 degrees. Now drop the opacity to about 30% and we're done with our lovely windmill. I think all these optional details really make it stand out. Having said that, if all these instructions are too complicated for you, don't worry. Just skip them and revisit this activity when you're more comfortable with these notions. Okay, let's take a step back and see what's happening with our project. We have the sky region to take care of, but let's add some mountains to finish the landscape part. Grab the polygon tool and create a triangle that's about 150 pixels wide and 130 pixels tall. The bottom part is going to be hidden behind our hills, so don't worry about it. For the colour, go with 56B0C9 for this first one. Now duplicate it and change its colour to 4194AC, which is a slightly darker shade. I don't think a stroke would look very good on these, hence my colour diversity. Increase it to about 175 pixels or so while holding down Shift. This is pretty good, but let's drag it underneath our original mountain. Right, much better. Finally, create one more copy and increase its size to about 240 pixels. For the colour, keep it somewhere around the same region. Here, I'll go with 4E A1B9. Because we added these mountains on our canvas, you may want to readjust your trees' positions as well as their size. There's no clear guide here, just go with your instinct. Figure out what looks best in your view. We're just having fun here. We don't need to get bogged down on proportions too much. Okay, I'm good to go. Let's create our sun with the ellipse tool. For its size, 64 by 64 is adequate. For its colour, a bright yellow code is this, F4DC3A. We also want some rays, so let's get the rounded rectangle tool and input these measurements. 32 by 8 pixels with a corner radius of 4 pixels. This should be the same yellow as our sun, and it should be placed on the left side of it. Try and use your smart guides to vertically align it. If you're having trouble, use the alignment tools from up top. Now we're going to repeat the windmill blade process. Duplicate it and position it on the other side of the sun. For me, 10 pixels is a good amount of space between them. Use your Control key to check out the current value. Right, now I'll zoom through these next steps as they're nothing special. Select both shapes, duplicate them, and rotate them. Now duplicate these two and rotate them so we get our first diagonal line. One more time and we'll end up with 8 perfect rays. Nice work. Feel free to merge them together with Control E, as it's unlikely we'll do anything else with them. Place the sun somewhere in the top left and we're golden. For the clouds, we could use several tools, but I want to show a technique that relies on shapes alone. Start with a rounded rectangle that's 80 by 26 pixels. For the corner radius, go with 12 pixels. Make it white. Make a duplicate and change its size to 40 by 12 pixels. As for the corner radius, go with 6. Bottom align it with the initial shape and drag it towards the right side. Now get the ellipse tool and drag out a circle that's about 30 pixels in size. This should be placed above the existing shapes. This needs a bit of patience, but I'll hurry along so we can keep up a good pace. Now duplicate it and move it somewhere to the right. It also needs to dip a few pixels. In case you're not happy with anything, feel free to make adjustments. These clouds should be fun to make. Here I think I'll increase this shape's width to 50 pixels or so. The last finishing touches will be 2 small ellipses at the right side of it. 6 by 6 should be small enough. Place them as you see fit, and these should be given the sensation that the cloud is moving. Once you're done with it, though I'd advise you not to hurry, group it or merge all these layers together. Call it Cloud and duplicate it several times on the canvas. I suggest you enlarge some of them, maybe turn down their opacity and make them fit your composition. You can also shrink one or two to create the illusion that they're further away from the viewer. There are loads of things you can play around with, and I invite you to take your time and create something awesome when it's going to be your turn. Remember, initially you should use my colour codes, my sizes and whatnot, but after this is done, I want you to create your own twist and upload it to the platform. Other students can chime in and give their review, and I'll definitely participate as well. Here I'm done and I'm really happy with it. In the next and final lesson, I'll teach you how to create a nice hot air balloon, and that's going to be a wrap. I'll see you in a second.